Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 101 for you guys today. We're going to kick things off in the sport of boxing. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the fight rematch officially being announced between Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach. So, this summer, August 16th, you'll see a highly anticipated rematch at the lightweight division with Gervonta Davis defending his WBA title against Lamont Roach in a highly anticipated rematch. So, my thoughts on this rematch officially being announced. I'm really excited for the rematch. I would have liked it sooner, but I'll take August 16th for this highly anticipated rematch at the lightweight division between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. And based off how that first fight went, Gervonta Davis had no option. He had no choice but to give Lamont the rematch based off how close the first fight was and how controversial it was. But I have so many questions heading into this highly anticipated rematch. Can Lamont Roach finish the job and get a W after a controversial scorecards that led to a draw? Two judges favored the fight being in a draw. One favored Tank Davis winning that fight. But it was so controversial because in that ninth round, Gervonta Davis willingly took a knee after getting grease in his eyes, which could have been a 10-8 round in favor of Lamont Roach, which could have swung the fight in his favor for giving Tank Davis his first loss. But I also want to know, is Gervonta Davis going to be fully focused for this fight? Now, there's no excuses for Gervonta Tank Davis. I love me some Tank. But you could tell he was not focused 100% in that ring. By the time it got to the 12th round, he didn't even know it was the 12th and final round of the fight. He thought it was round 7, either round 7 through 9. You could tell he wasn't making the key adjustments needed. I want to see if Coach Calvin, not Calvin Johnson, Coach Calvin will be the main trainer for Gervonta Davis in this fight, because that Coach Calvin can get Tank Davis going and knows how to get the best version out of Tank and help him make adjustments as the fight goes on. But I also want to see if Gervonta Davis is going to be the quicker counter puncher for this fight. Mind you, Gervonta Davis was slower than Lamont Roach. Lamont Roach was on time for most of the time in the counter-punching exchange. And Lamont Roach honestly looked like the clear lightweight. Remember, Lamont Roach moved up from 130 to 135 to fight Tank Davis. And he looked more comfortable at this division than Gervonta Davis. And honestly, at times during the fight, Lamont Roach made Tank feel like a smaller fighter. Like it was Tank moving up from 130 to 135. And going back to the counter punching, if you guys watch Tank Davis's fights, Tank Davis is a phenomenal counter puncher, packs power in his right and left hands. And the way how Tank Davis gets his opponents to respect his power and to mentally break them down before he scores a knockout victories, it's winning the counter punching battle and being precise with the punches. At times, yes, he was precise on Lamont Roach, but the style that Lamont Roach, being a slick southpaw fighter, Lamont Roach was giving Tank Davis some problems defensively and was not allowing Tank Davis to fight on the inside. Was really making a lot of great adjustments defensively. So I want to see if Tank Davis can adjust to that. And Lamont Roach was winning the counter-punch battle, being more effective, landing the counter punches, and in clear fashion was landing the more impactful counter punches, rocking Gervonta Davis at times. Knees buckling, him wobbling, him taking a step back from these punches that Lamont Roach was dishing out to him. And Lamont Roach isn't even a knockout artist. Tank has been in the ring with way harder punchers in the past, like a Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero, and I can go on, Isaac Cruz. But it was something that Lamont Roach was giving Tank Davis problems that I have never seen a boxer give Tank Davis these type of problems fighting on the inside. So I want to see if Tank Davis can make these adjustments for this fight. And another question I have is, can Lamont Roach's chin hold up? And I was surprised that he did not get dropped at least once in this fight, but that goes to the credit of what he was doing defensively. Now, he did absorb some big punches by Gervonta Davis. After Gervonta Davis willingly took the knee in the 9th round, that's where Tank started lighting it up and put together one of his best rounds of the fight in round 9. That's one of the reasons why it wasn't swung in a favor of 10-8 for Roach, minus the knockdown that could have been called. But Tank Davis was firing back at Lamont Roach in that round. And he absorbed some big punches in the pocket, to the chin, to the body. I want to see if Lamont Roach's chin is very durable, or if this was a one-night show of how durable Lamont Roach's chin can be. I want to see if he can hang in there again with Tank Davis exchanging fireworks in the pocket. But I'm glad that Gervonta Davis went the rematch route, because for the boxing gods, they would not have been happy with what would have happened next if Tank Davis, based off how that fight went, the controversial knee that he took in the 9th round, and the fact that if he was victorious, he was gonna call out Jake Paul, which is a terrible look for the sport of boxing, because Jake Paul is doing his own thing. Gervonta Davis, to a lot of people, he's a pound for pound fighter, and he's currently a lightweight champion. Meanwhile, Jake Paul is a heavyweight. That is nearly 100-pound difference that Gervonta Davis would have called out Jake Paul for a legit boxing fight. I don't know how the boxing committee would have allowed this to happen based off of the huge weight advantage that Jake Paul clearly has over Gervonta Davis. So I'm glad that he's going the rematch route. Maybe this made Tank Davis wake up and smell the coffee of, while you're in this sport, you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You can't talk about retirement. You got to stay locked in, focused on your opponent. You can't have Jake Paul in your locker room negotiating a fight when you got a world champion of Lamont Roach right in front of you. Mind you, Lamont Roach is still the WBA world champion at the 130-pound division. I'm glad he went the rematch route, because and I'm just going to use some fighters as an example of this. After some controversial fights that some all-time greats have had, like Floyd running it back with Maidana after his controversial first win. Second fight, clear unanimous decision victory that Floyd was the better fighter over Maidana. Then, in recent memory, one of the greatest heavyweights of this generation, Anthony Joshua, ran it back with Andy Ruiz after having one of the biggest upsets in recent memory in the heavyweight division at the time. Anthony Joshua got his lick back, won that fight clearly by unanimous decision to win his heavyweight titles back. So that's just an example of some great fighters getting their get back, whether it was a controversial victory or a dramatic loss. They go in the rematch route and not tucking their tail, taking their ball and running somewhere else. I'm proud of Gervonta Davis for going the rematch route. But I think this rematch is going to be more competitive than the first fight. Now, Lamont Roach on podcast interviews, and especially the interview that he had with Andre Ward, when Andre Ward brought him on his podcast, Lamont Roach gave away the blueprint of what it takes for Gervonta Davis to turn it up a notch in fights, have the light switch heading into the fight. And that's where Tank Davis already having bad blood with his opponents. I'll just name opponents off the top of my head Tank has had bad blood with, and he's winning and knocked them out. Frank Martin, based off of their sparring history. Ryan Garcia, the highly anticipated rivalry that was going on for years, highly anticipation for that build-up. He knocked out Ryan. And him and Rolly Romero had bad blood because they were both part of Floyd Mayweather's money promotions at the time. And there were some behind-the-scenes controversial things that they wanted. At the time, Leonard Elby and Floyd were willing to keep Rolly Romero as their main star in the promotion if Tank Davis were to lose. So I'm just naming examples of what it takes to bring the best out of Gervonta Davis. He has to be aggressive. He has to be fired up and have a motive to get his opponent out of there. And there was no motive when Tank Davis fought Lamont Roach. He viewed it as two guys from the DMV that had a little rivalry and the amateurs, but it was no bad blood or no highly anticipation heading into the fight. That's not where you're going to get the best out of Gervonta Davis. And Lamont Roach told you guys that. Now, the rematch is going to be more competitive because Tank has something to prove. Oh, he's heard all the chatter, all the noise. He's coming in to prove something. Whether it's a win or a loss, he's coming to compete, and so is Lamont Roach. So this rematch is going to be more competitive. I think it's going to be better than the first fight. There's more bad blood and the build-up for the rematch. The PBC and Al Heyman got some money on their hands for this rematch because this is going to be a sellout in the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. I mean, this is everything you want. It's one of the biggest fights of the summer. But Tank, I will say this to close it out. Gervonta Davis's back is against the wall in this highly anticipated rematch against Lamont Roach. Because a loss here not only gives Tank Davis his first loss of his career, gives Tank his first loss of his career. He loses the WBA lightweight title to a contender that moved up from 130 to 135. And that shows that Tank possibly should have suffered two losses based off of how controversial the first fight was. I want to see how he responds in this highly anticipated rematch against Lamont Roach. Meanwhile, for Lamont Roach, once again, going in his pockets, playing with house money, just throwing it at you guys, because this guy, again, he's already a world champion right now at 130 pounds. He's the WBA 130-pound champion, moving up to lightweight again to fight arguably the best fighter at lightweight in Gervonta Davis. What does he have to lose if he loses this fight? His title's not on the line. This is a guy that was very heavily favored underdog for this first fight. And if he wins, not only does he defeat Tank Davis, one of the best fighters of this generation, he becomes simultaneously a 2-division world champion and becomes a household name in the sport of boxing. So it's everything to lose for Tank, but everything to gain, win or lose, for Lamont Roach in this highly anticipated rematch. August 16th can't come fast enough. This is the fight of the summer for me, the fight that I'm looking forward to the most. But those are my thoughts on Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach for the highly anticipated rematch.